What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Today it's the day after the deer hunt. We quartered out our deer and everything, got it back, put it in the fridge for the night, let the meat chill, and we're going to process it today. I'm going to show you how to process the front leg, back leg, and what I do with some of the other meat that we get, and then we're going to show you making some of it into burger. So we're just going to kind of go through that process today. Hopefully you learn something, find something helpful, useful. If you do, drop a comment down below, let us know about it. If there's something that you think we could do better with it, let us know. I'd love to hear your comments and everything on it. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel out a lot. It helps the algorithm recognize that people are liking the video, so please at least give it a thumbs up. I appreciate your help. Thank you very much, and enjoy the video. Alright guys, so first thing you want to do when you're doing your own meat and everything is have a good set of knives. I bought the Outdoor Edge kit a long time ago. I've processed elk, deer, wild hogs, javelina, everything with this kit. Absolutely love it. It's got everything you need. It's got a caper, a skinner, a boning fillet knife, a butcher knife. It's got a bone saw for splitting up the ribs and everything, or even splitting the hips if you need to. It's got bone cutting scissors. It's got a fork knife. It's got a spreader for the for your ribs. You can actually spread them open and help keep everything open while you're doing your gutting process and everything out in the field. If you want to bring this along, I don't, but for those of you that want to do something like that, you can. I'll throw a link for this down below. I don't get anything from them for doing this or anything. It's just a kit that I really like, and I thought I'd share that with you guys of what I'm using today. This is what I'm using. Comes in this handy case. It's the Outdoor Edge Game Processor Kit. It also comes with a cutting board. So if you need a good cutting surface, you got one right there. And it comes in that handy case. So that's what we're going to be using today. Most of the time what I use is I just use the fillet knife for a lot of the stuff I do. It's just easier. I keep a sharpening, little knife sharpener on the table with me at all times, just to kind of put a quick edge on the knife so that it's ready to go. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through this first front leg. Pretty simple process with this. We're just going to peel all the meat off of the shoulder blade and the lower portion of the leg here. Most of this lower portion right here you can make into burger meat. That's typically what I do, is I just cut it all off and throw it in my burger bowl. There's a couple of steaks you can get off of here as well as off the back, and then everything else goes into burger meat. You want to make sure you clean all the deer hair off of it. What I use is I've got this fish cleaning table basically, but I didn't put the clip on it. I wipe it all down, get it nice and clean, and then I use the sink here and just rinse the meat off right here in the sink, and then I get to cutting. So we're going to do that real quick. And that just kind of to clean all the deer hair and everything else off. I can kind of not blast it too bad. And just rinse the meat off real quick. Get any extra bits and pieces of any dirt or anything that did manage to get on it out in the field. Get any loose hairs and stuff, deer hair. Get that off the meat. Just kind of give it a good quick rinse. You don't have to have one of these processing tables to do this. You know, I mean, if you can do this in your kitchen at home, you got the table, the counter space to do this at the, on your counter, and just bring in a section at a time to work on it. That works too. But I just have this handy little table out of my shop, and that's what I use. Always good to have a bowl handy so you can put all your meat and everything in it as you go. But right here, you've got a little bone on your shoulder bone right there, and you just run the knife right down that little section of bone right there. You can kind of just feel it with your fingers. You just run your knife right down it. I just run it all the way to the end here. And get that all the way along top of the shoulder blade. And then right on the opposite side, same thing. Just run that knife right down there. So you got your meat kind of peeled off on either side of that bone. And I just kind of start working that meat back. And work down along the edge here. You can kind of feel that bone just running along, that leg bone. You just kind of get your fingers in there and just kind of work it back. You just cut that meat away. Just run that knife. I like the fillet knife because you can kind of just slide it up under and just start peeling all that meat away from that shoulder blade. Just come right across the top there, peel it off. You got your shoulder blade right there. And that meat just peels right away from it. Just work that knife all the way down, all the way to that knee joint right there. Around, do the same thing on the other side. Cut right there, a little cut right there you can make straight in. You got the little joint right there, and just start peeling meat back. What I'll typically do is I'll have two bowls. I'll have one that's going to be all steaks and everything that's going to go in there, and then the other side is all burger meat. You just keep working this knife along that leg bone right there and along this shoulder blade. Just going to peel it back all the way through. Just over here. Shot. As that just flips right over, and you can kind of just continue your cut right along the back of the shoulder blade there. All this stuff, it just kind of comes off in sections. You kind of feel it with your fingers. A lot of time you can just kind of get your fingers in there and separate the meat. And as you get it separated, you'll kind of see where to cut. You kind of feel it. And I said, a lot of these shoulders, a lot of the front shoulder, a lot of times you just run it into your grind. Cut away as much of that sinew and stuff as possible. Again, it's all just going to go into the ground meat, so it's not that big a deal. Just get a chunk of meat like that, and you can either make that into a little mini steaks, or you can make that into hamburger. And then any chunks like this that you get, just throw it in your burger pile. You're just going to keep working your way around here. Good burger meat, deer hair. As you go, just kind of keep an eye on your meat. Just check it for deer hair, stuff like that. You don't want any hair in your meat. Doesn't give it the best flavor. Another thing I do is I also just any of the little sinewy stuff that I cut away that I'm not going to end up being able to use, I just throw it in a bowl for the dogs. They absolutely love it. There's nothing wrong with it. They get all the bones and everything as well. My dogs have been chewing on the ribs and everything else from this deer. So the whole thing, none of it goes to waste. My dogs absolutely love the bones. And they're not cooked or anything, so you don't have to worry about them shattering or anything like that. So it's perfectly okay for the dogs to chew on them and everything. They'll do just fine. Like I said, you just kind of work around that bone all the way around. Get it as clean as you can. Get as much meat off of it as you can. Just keep working that knife around. Just peeling that meat away from the bone. You cut straight down right here. You got this little knobby piece of bone that sticks up right there. Just bring your knife right to about here, and you can run it straight down all the way till you hit this bone here. And then again, just run your fillet knife right down the side of that leg bone. You can just peel that meat right away from it. Same thing with that bottom portion of the leg. I just peel that meat right off. All this is going to go into my burger meat. It's just real sinewy and everything, so you're not going to really be able to make it into anything else other than ground meat. But you don't have to worry about that sinew and everything. A lot of that gets caught up in the separator at the end when you're grinding, and you just clean that out as you go. But then that way you also get as much meat as possible out of these deer. Because Coues deer are not that big to start with. They're not like your East Coast deer or northern deer, where you just get those monster bodies on them and you get, you know, a 200-pound buck and stuff like that. We don't have that down here. You know, a Coues deer, a nice big Coues deer is going to weigh just a little over 100 pounds after you field dress it. So they're not huge deer to start with. Mine probably weighed somewhere around there just because he had a ton of fat on him. But all that's tallow and everything, you don't really want to eat that anyway. You can make candles and stuff out of the fat, especially that tallow. It's a real waxy fat anyway, so it'd probably be great for making candle wax and stuff like that if you do that kind of thing. Maybe we'll try and do that in a future video. Drop a comment down below. Let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in. And we'll give that a try. I've never actually tried it. I've just heard of people doing it. So maybe we'll give that a try and see if we can make actual candle wax out of deer tallow or something one of these years. I gave all the fat to the dogs this year, so we'll have to save that for a experiment next year or something. But right there, that's all the bone right there. Just peel all that meat off, and that goes to the dogs. So you're just left with a big pile of meat, and then you just trim it up however you want. You can make, like I said, this will be burger, so we'll just cube this up, chop it into chunks. Just throw all these chunks in a bowl, and that'll all go into the grinder, just the way it is. Sinew and all, doesn't hurt it, doesn't affect the flavor or anything. A lot of that, the big sinew and stuff that doesn't make it through, that'll just go right in. You know, it gets caught in that little, in the extruder of the meat grinder. So that's not a big deal. Just make a pile of that, and that's all going to go into the grinder. Right here on the front, just think a couple things you can do with this. You can take this upper portion and you can kind of group it together and make yourself a little bit of a roast out of it from right about here to here, and use that portion there for a roast. Trim the rest of that off, and then you can just use that for, you know, whatever. You can make it into burger meat or whatever, or you can try and cut some steaks out of this. The front shoulder isn't great for steaks, but you can get a couple little strip steaks and stuff out of it. What I typically do is I just cut it all up. The vast majority of it ends up in burger meat. And that front shoulder, and make that into jerky and hamburger and everything else. You do get a couple little steaks out of the front shoulder though. Most of it's from either side of that shoulder blade. As you go, you get these strips of meat right here. Get yourself a nice little strip steak. You can throw it in the freezer bag just like that, and then when you go to cook it, you can just peel off that silver skin and you'll have a nice little strip steak right there. Same thing. You can take that, either make it into hamburger or make it into a little steak. This I typically just make into hamburger, so that just goes on that pile right there. Right here, just reach in, pop that open. You can see you can kind of start separating the meat into chunks. And just peel that out. Again, hamburger there. A lot of this is just going to be hamburger, so you just kind of work it through. We got kids piling in here, guys, so sorry for the extra noise. But this last piece here, you can make that into steaks, or you can make that into burger. Either way, you got a chunk about that big. I usually split it in half and make 2 steaks out of it. It makes a great little piece of meat for steak. So that's what we're going to do with that. And then we'll get into the front leg or the back legs here in a minute, and I'll show you guys what you do with that portion. Alrighty guys, so we got our hind leg here, and it's got a little bit of that, I've been letting it, it's been sitting in the fridge chilling, so it's got a little bit of that, almost like that leathery coating on it. We're going to peel that off, but we're going to break this back leg down real quick. It doesn't take long. Again, just have a knife, throw a quick edge on it, and we get to work here. Any little pieces like this, just toss it into the bowl for the dogs. Right here, you can peel this away with your fingers almost. Just peel right around. This piece right here is a nice size roast. So we're going to peel that away. Peel some of that skin off there. When I say skin, it's just that silver skin. You can just separate with your thumbs. You just run your thumbs all the way down to that leg bone down in there. Okay? What I do is I just run my knife in there, peel that top piece back. That's going to be burger meat anyway. Not ruining any steaks or anything like that. This whole chunk of meat right here, you can cut this way. Because you got your grain, you can see it right here. Your grain's running this way. So when you cut your steaks, you want to cut against the grain right there. You don't want to cut with the grain, you want to cut against it. And that gives you that nice little sections and everything. Makes your meat more tender. It'll accept marinades and everything a lot better. Just gives you an all-around better cut. I also have a little bowl here I keep off to the side. That's all for the dogs. They absolutely love it when I'm butchering deer. I'm just going to break this down here all the way into that backbone there. Run your thumb along it. Just separate that meat from that leg bone down at the bottom there. Careful not to cut yourself. Just work that knife around and just kind of find that bone and just separate that meat off that edge. You can kind of follow it. Again, you just follow those sections of meat. You'll be able to feel it with your fingers as you go, where each muscle group is, and you just basically separate it by those muscle groups as you're breaking it down. You just peel it right open. And get yourself some nice big cuts of meat. This is one of my other fillet knives that I have. It's a J.A. Henckels International, and is a great little fillet knife. had this one for years, and I've got Mark over there on the other table with my other fillet knife, so I'm using this one. But both are great knives, do an awesome job. Again, you just kind of work around here though. And you just start peeling that meat away from the bone, all the way around. Got any of this big tendon out of here, you don't want that stuff. Cut that out, and that goes in the dog bowl. If you don't have dogs, but you have chickens or something, give it to your chickens. It's perfectly fine for them to eat, and then you get good eggs from good organic meat. Doesn't get much more organic than this. Sorry, I probably went off screen there. There you go. Nice big roast. Take that, throw it in the slow cooker. Absolutely phenomenal. Great, great roast right there. Pop that right in there. Cut some of that silver skin away. Just work through, get all that stuff out of there. Again, it goes in the dog bowl. This deer had a lot of fat on him, so you get these sections of fat that run through the meat like this. We'll trim that out. That's that tallow, it's kind of waxy. Not the best stuff in the world, but the dogs love it, the chickens love it. So, if you got other animals, feed it to them, they will thank you for it. They love it. I bet the cats would even eat it. My dogs have been packing around the ribs from this deer all day today. He just packs it around the yard and eats it a little bit at a time. Cut that fat out right there, toss it in the dog bowl. Again, just kind of follow those muscle groups. You'll be able to feel it with your fingers. You just run your fingers down each muscle group. You got this one here, that big guy that I just cut off. We're gonna get some nice steaks out of that. We're just gonna continue to work our way around. If you guys enjoy this type of content, leave a comment down below, let me know, and give me a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel and helps show the algorithm that people actually enjoy this type of content, so we can keep making videos like this for you guys on YouTube. Oh, burger meat, something like this, you can either have it as a mini roast, or I just cut them up into burger meat. Works out just fine. This whole section of leg down below, we're just going to cut all the way around. Got that bone that runs all the way on the back here, and you just follow the edge of that bone around. Cut through, pop it off. Lower portion of the leg I just make into jerky. That's where it goes for me. Some recipe on Meat Eater that Steve Rinella makes into, I think he calls it saboku or something like that. It's a way of slow cooking it and everything else to get all that meat, and he always says he's going to make it into that, and it's an interesting process. It's maybe worth trying sometime. If you guys want me to give that a try, let me know down in the comments, and maybe on next year's deer we'll give that a shot. Try a different recipe on the venison here. See if we can make something like that. Again, you just kind of work along this bone here and just keep just dragging that fillet knife. I love using the fillet knife. It really reaches in there. It's got a lot of flexibility, so you can really kind of just roll it along the edge of that bone and get all that meat off of there and get that bone as clean as possible so we can maximize the amount of meat we get from this deer. And anything left on the bones, obviously the dogs are going to get. You take that though right there, and I just chunk it up. Peel that silver skin off. That's all hard there. That all goes right there, right into the burger bowl. Same thing with this little one. I'm just going to chop this up, make this into burger meat. We've got lots of steaks still, so we need as much burger as we can out of this thing, but I'm going to make some steaks and everything. I can kind of show you guys how we do it. So you take this big guy here, you can see we've got a little bit of fat and silver skin right here. Just peel that away. You don't have to get the silver skin and everything off right now. You can do that when it's time to cook the meat. So you can clean it up then. You can leave it on for now. Nothing's gonna hurt you to leave it on. I try and trim as much fat and everything off as I can right now. I'll give that to the dogs. Just keep on working your way around. All dried section there. Just gonna run the knife under it, peel that dry meat off. That's just a protective layer that basically has gotten over the meat, keeps it from building up bacteria and everything. You want to let your meat dry like that. If you're hanging it in the field, and it's perfectly fine, and it'll keep that meat protected. Flies won't be able to get into it, it won't get bacteria and everything else. So you want to cover it as best you can too. If you have you want to use game bags out in the field as best you can. Chop this guy up into chunks of burger meat. You could make this into some little strip steaks or something, but I'm just going to make this into burger meat here, and it'll probably end up being jerky or something else down the road. We still got this nice big chunk of meat here. Again, silver skins on it. I'll probably peel a little bit of that off and clean up a little bit of this dry meat on the outside. Again, nothing wrong with it. I'm just going to toss that right in my burger meat. It's all going to get ground up. I'm going to try something a little bit new this year. We're going to add a little bit of liver to our burger meat. Done a little reading, and my wife was looking it up, and she says it adds a lot of good iron and everything to your meat. A lot of minerals and stuff is in the liver, and you just chop it all up and add that into your burger meat and grind it in. And I mean, we're already adding pork fat and everything else in there, so it's not like you're really going to taste that liver in there anyway. With all the extra meat, it's going to be overpowered by all the other meat, but it'll just add that extra bit of minerals and nutrients to your meat. So we're going to give that a try this year, and I'll let you know if it really makes a big difference in flavor. I don't think it will. All these trimmings and everything though, I just take those and I throw them right into the burger meat and grind it right up. It just increases my amount of burger that I get. Next, just use the butcher knife. I just run right along here. And just cut myself some nice little strip steaks, just like that. Goes right in the bowl. Yeah, nice little strip steak. Once we get all these cut, what we'll do is we'll just vacuum seal them, and I'll vacuum seal 3 or 4 of these little strip steaks in a vacuum sealer, and it makes a good little meal for me and my wife. I'll break out 2 or 3 of those packs and we'll do a meal for the whole family. If I just want one, sometimes I'll just use a little 2-pack that I'll make and I'll just make some steak if I'm just making it for me. But how addicted my kids are to venison, that doesn't really happen anymore. These kids annihilate it when I make venison. Switch back to my fillet knife here. We're going to peel the rest of this steak off the bone here. And you just kind of follow the bone around. And like I said, if you have dogs, they'll thank you for leaving a little bit of the trimmings and stuff on there. My dogs love chewing on these bones. They've already got a few, so I'll probably freeze these and give it to them as a little treat later on. Just every once in a while, just break out some bones and let them munch on them. Dogs absolutely go nuts for it. I'm not super picky with my burger meat. Pretty much put everything in there, all the little bits and pieces and trimmings that I can. Just increases the amount of burger I get at the end. Little bits of sinew and stuff, that'll all go to the dogs. I try not to throw anything away if I can avoid it. Anything I can use, I will. So you got this other nice big chunk of meat, you can make that into a roast just like that. Or you can cut into steaks. I'm going to cut mine into steaks. I trim off a little bit more of the edges here. It's just kind of some of the messier stuff. Just clean it up a little bit, and then I'm going to slice it into some steak. Go right there in the burger meat, just like that. Same thing with that guy. Alright. Got this here. Again, I do just a little cross cut. I have a little steak just like that. I'll go for Morgan. She'll crush that. Little kitty steaks. And just, I cut them about 1/2 inch thick. And just cut my steaks. Have back legs, you get a lot of steak out of if you want steaks, or you can just grind the whole thing. Either or. This is what I do with it though, I make it into steak. Oh, let me get all the way through that. There we go. A few more steaks. Look at that guy. Nice little steak. And these guys, I'll just chop this up. And this will go right into the burger meat. So there you go. That's one hind quarter. Got one more hind quarter to do, and then we got 2 front legs. Well, we already done 1 front leg, so 1 more front leg. But that's what you get out of 1 hind quarter. It's really not that bad. It's a decent amount of meat, good weight. I'll show you guys what we do with the back straps here in a minute. Alrighty guys, next we got the back strap. Big old chunk of meat here. We're going to clean up some of the silver skin and stuff, a little bit of that leathery crap we're going to get off of there. And then we're going to throw it right in with our steak pile and everything. And then, like I said, we vacuum seal everything at the end of the night. So after we do our grind and everything, I'll show you guys that portion. But I wanted to show you the processing on the back strap here real quick too. So with this, obviously any little bit of fat and everything, just work the knife underneath here, get my fillet knife, throw it underneath that. You want to get that off and then kind of work the silver skin off. What I typically do with my back strap is I kind of fold it in half, find the halfway point, and just cut it in half. Ends up with 2 nice strips of meat here. Alright, makes it easier to handle right here, and it makes it a lot easier. This is a good portion, you know, one of these, feed 2, maybe 3 people. I do both of them when I do a meal for my family. I'll do 1 whole back strap for my family. But that's a wife and 4 kids, so. I'm sure as the kids get bigger, it's gonna take even more to feed them. Last time I remember, teenage boys eat a lot. Let's take that silver skin right off. Yeah, nothing goes to waste. This all goes into all the silver skin and a little bit of trimmings of fat and stuff. That all goes to the dogs or the chickens. Give it to the chickens, makes eggs and more food for the family. Flip that over. Trim this off here. Be very careful when you're doing this, guys. You don't want to cut yourself accidentally. So just kind of clean up your back strap as best you can. I try and clean it up as best I can without losing a whole lot of it. Anything I can save, throw in the burger pile, I do. There you go. One nice big back strap right there. Flip around, we're going to do the same thing to the other one. Roll the knife through. Cut all that silver skin off. You can leave the silver skin on if you want and just clean it up when it's time to make dinner. I do it ahead of time. It just saves time when it comes to thawing them out, marinating them, and getting dinner going. It's one less thing I have to do. So I typically do it right now when I'm out in the shop doing all this stuff anyway. I'll just kind of clean up this silver skin as I can here. Just make it nice and clean. A lot of that can just go right into the burger pile. Any big chunks of silver skin will go right into the dog bowl. Take the tip of this guy off. Go right into the burger meat. And there you go. Got that. Let's get this other side here. Again, try not to take too much off of it. Some of this was all the way up in the neck meat, so it's got some little chunks and stuff in there. I cut these guys way up high, and when I was out in the field, just to maximize the amount of meat I can get off the deer. I try to leave as little as possible when I'm cleaning them up. Sorry, we got my buddy Mark. He's over there on the other table working on his deer while I work on mine. So we got quite the operation going tonight. But there's the back straps, guys. Two nice back straps. Those are going to go in freezer bags. And then I just mark them, you know, venison back strap. I put the date on it. So today's date is October 26th. We'll mark the date on those. And then they'll be ready to toss into the freezer and ready to eat when we're ready to have them. Alrighty guys, there it is. That's just some of the steaks and back straps, tenderloins, and a couple of roasts and the deer heart. We're going to do all of the burger meat tomorrow, but I just wanted to show you guys this stuff all packaged up. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 packs of steak. These have like about 4 small steaks in each one. So plenty of steak there. We've still got a little bit of other steak too, so we're good there. Lots of backstrap and tenderloins, a couple of nice big roasts. A big old venison roast there, got 2 of those. Got deer heart, love deer heart. There's another video that I have on how to cook up deer heart. It is fantastic, great way to make it. I always cut it up and make it in the morning. It's awesome. Check out that video. But yeah, we'll get into doing the grind and adding in the pork fat and everything tomorrow. So stay tuned and we'll jump right into that next. Alrighty guys, it's the next day. We didn't get to grinding yesterday. I was up till what, 10:30, 11ish, cutting steaks and getting everything all done, so it was late. This is a commercial grade 3/4 horsepower grinder that we're using today. I've had this thing for 11 years now. Absolutely one of the best buys I've made. I'll throw a link for it down below. You guys can check it out. But buying yourself a good quality grinder if you're going to take care of doing all your meat and everything, I highly recommend doing it. It's definitely paid for itself over the years. I've ground elk, deer, hogs, javelina, rabbits, all kinds of stuff with this grinder. It just does a phenomenal job. What we're going to do is we're going to do the big holes first. We're going to run it through once with the bigger holes here, and then we're going to run it through again using the smaller holes. So once we get that done, before you do this though, you always want to add some cooking spray down inside. Just kind of run it a little bit, use the cooking spray, spray the front here and everything, and that'll just kind of keep it from gumming up, and it'll keep the meat and everything moving. So we're going to do that real quick. Take the front of it off here, just unscrews, take your attachments out. It's got your little cutting blade right there. And we've got a little bit here. Spray it with some cooking spray and pop it right back in. And then we throw our cutting blade on. We pop the large holes on with our extruder. This also comes with the attachments to do your casings if you want to do like sausage casings, anything like that. It comes with all the attachment pieces and everything to do that as well. So it's a real good combo. I believe it's carried by Cabela's if I remember right. That's where we got it. But I absolutely love it, and it's definitely one of the best pieces of gear I've bought for processing meat that I've got right now. The other thing you want to do with when you're grinding meat is you want to make sure that you chill it. So if you don't have time to chill it, you can always add ice cubes to it as you do it. But I prefer to chill. Just put your piece up here. We're going to put meat in here. We're going to chop up pork fat, add it to it, and then start running it through. It's also got this little pusher here. You can just push down to push your meat in. That way you're not sticking your fingers down in there and getting them caught up and getting your hands all tore up. So we're going to get this, get the meat out and everything, and then we'll get this going. All right, so what we're doing here, guys, is we're just cutting up a bunch of pork fat. What we did is we got some cured salt pork. It's just basically pork fat. We got some, went to the butcher's counter and asked them for some pork fat, and what they did is they just cut off a bunch of the extra fat that they normally cut off of their pork roasts and pork rounds and stuff like that. He cut me some of that stuff off and got me some of that pork fat. That's actually the cheapest way you can do it. If you're gonna do it that way, I highly recommend talking to your butcher ahead of time before you go out hunting or something, and get some of this stuff ahead of time. But it's definitely the cheapest way to go. They only charge about $1 a pound if you do it that way. This got about 1.5 pounds from them, and they only charged me $1.45. That was the cheapest. The salt pork runs about $3.50 a pack for a pound, and then the other way you can do it. This is just because I didn't want to run from store to store. I just went into a butcher shop, an actual butcher shop, and for 30 bucks bought 6 pounds of pork fat. So you just cube it all up, cut it up small, make sure you throw it in the fridge the night before or something. Just make sure that it's thawed out, but it's definitely chilled. It'll be a lot easier to handle, a lot easier to cut up, and be ready to go for grinding. And then what I do is I just throw in handfuls of meat and handfuls of fat, and we're going to add some liver to it. We're just taking basically one deer liver per all the burger that we're doing. So maybe a pound of deer liver for 13 or 14 pounds of meat. And that should, you won't even taste it, but it'll add a lot of iron and minerals and everything else to your, and a lot of vitamins and whatnot to your food, to your burgers. So you won't taste it, but it'll be there. And it's a great way to utilize the livers. So just another way to use up everything. So we're gonna get this chopped up and then we're gonna start grinding. All right, guys. I know you can hear the kids outside playing in the background, but we're gonna press on through this anyway. All right. So we've got our some chopped up liver here. We've got all our bacon fat. We've got all our big bowl of meat here. What we're gonna do, we're just gonna take a bunch of our meat, and I'm just gonna throw it up in the feed tray up here. Get it kind of staged. Again, you want to chill all of this the night before if you can. If you do this and you're just gonna process it right out the gate, right after chopping up your deer and everything, I highly recommend throwing in a couple of ice cubes as you go. It just helps the meat feed through easier and stay together and not get all mushy on you. So it's just another good thing to do. But again, we're gonna run this through twice as well. So we get this going here. And what I do is I just kind of shove some meat in, throw a little fat in with it as I go. And just kind of run the fat in. Throw some liver up in there. And just run a little bit of fat, a little bit of liver, a little bit of, and just kind of run it through. And this is all going to get ground up again, so you don't have to be too technical with it. Just kind of push it all through, because we're going to run this through twice anyway. When you run it through the second time, it really gets everything mixed.
Looking cool, man.
Just grab some more fat. Just kind of sprinkle it in as you go. And this will help your meat bind when you're making burgers and everything else. It adds a little bit of flavor. I like using the pork fat. If you can get bacon ends and pieces at a decent price, I recommend using that. But right now, they're price gouging the heck out of the bacon ends and pieces. A 3-pound bag is about $27. Just the prices have gotten ridiculous, so a lot of places just stopped carrying it altogether, just because they're just like, that's ridiculous. And when Walmart won't even sell it because they're price gouging it, then you know something's up. So we're gonna keep going with this, and then when we get it all through, we're gonna we'll jump to running it through the second time, so we'll show you guys that. Alrighty guys, so we've run it through once. This is what you get. The darker stuff there you can see that's just a little bit of the liver mixed in. Once we run it through the second time, it's just gonna kind of blend in with everything. It looks kind of chunky and everything right now, but that's why you run it through with the big holes first, especially if you're running, if you're doing things like deer meat and wild game, just because it does have some sinew and everything in there still. And if you try and do the small holes the first time, it will gum up your blade and everything, and it won't work. So you got to do the big holes first, run it through once, and then get all your meat and run it through a second time. When you run it through that second time, it's going to look a lot better. So we're going to get going on that. We'll show you a little bit of that, and then we'll show you guys the final product here. Just toss it in the hopper there. Start running it through. And this is where it actually starts looking like hamburger. So when you run it through that second time, you really end up with that stringy hamburger look. We're just doing burger today. You can do sausage and everything else with this stuff you want. You can add any of the little spices and stuff like that if you want to add to it. You can do that with this and freeze it that way. We're not going to do that today. We're just going to make straight up Just straight up burger here. Pile it in. And burger doesn't take very long, guys. This is a pretty quick process here. I'm gonna run it through twice, and then we're gonna start packaging it up. I package it in 2-pound packages, and then vacuum seal it. That seems to work nicely for my family. Just being a larger family, if you have a larger family, doing the 2 pounds at a time works out best. But you know, it's really up to you how you want to do it. You can do 2 pounds, 1 pound, you know, kind of just whatever you want. We're gonna keep going on this, and then I'll show you guys the final product at the end here. Alrighty guys, so we got it all ground up. If you remember, we just had everything in, all the meat was just in this one yellow bowl here. And it was about that tall over the meat, of meat just kind of mounded over. And now we've got so much we had to fill up 2 bowls basically to get everything in. So we got a ton of meat here. We got a ton of stuff out of this. What we're gonna do, I'm gonna use my little scale right here. Been using this, also had this about 11 years now. Absolutely love it. It's been real accurate. You just put your bowl on it, zero it out, and you just adjust it until it's zeroed out. And it does kilograms or it does pounds, so you can do either or. And then you just start adding your meat. I typically do about 2 pounds because that's what works for my family. You just keep adding meat in there until you hit the 2 pound mark. There's a pound. Pound and a half. Almost 2. Right there, 2 pounds. So we got 2 pounds. What I'm going to do is then I'll vacuum seal it up, and we're just going to keep doing 2 pound packages until we run out of meat. So we're going to get going on that, and I'll show you what we got when we get done, how much meat we ended up with. Alright guys, there it is. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 packages. They're all 2 pounds. So we got 24 pounds of meat. One of them is 2.25 pounds. Just had the last little bit of extra hamburger in the back there, but 24 pounds of meat plus, I believe I said 12 pounds yesterday. Was it 12? I think it was. Yesterday, so 36 pounds of meat from this deer, which is great. I'm really excited about it. Glad to have it, and we're gonna have a lot of great meals out of this. So stay tuned for some different venison recipes. If you like this type of content, make sure to give it a thumbs up, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Again, the grinder, I'll throw the link for that down below. The knives we used, the Outdoor Edge kit here, the game processor kit. I'll make sure I throw a link for that down below. The vacuum bags, all the stuff I use and everything to do this. I'll throw links down below so you guys can check that out. Appreciate you guys watching. Till next time, we will catch you down the line.